Wow. Wow. So, Bears defeat the Raiders in Vegas by a score of 24-22, winning off of a blocked field goal to end it. That was unbelievable. Dude, that game sucked. That was such a stupid game. But we're going to get into that. Like, okay, one of my biggest complaints, or not necessarily complaints, but like something that I talk about for the Bears is something that it feels like we never have cool, crazy moments like that. It feels like it only ever happens against us. Like last year, we lost literally exactly that way last year against the Packers by a blocked field goal. And today, times are changing. Times are changing, man. You know? I don't know. Man, that game was ridiculous, though. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'm going into the bye week, and I'm not treating this like it was a victory. I'm treating this like, you guys deserve to lose. Your lucky special teams bailed you out, but you're not going to be that lucky next time. So we got some problems, which is very true. Like the Raiders are on so much lower of a level than we are in terms of roster construction. The fact that we're playing on the same level, even to the point that we should have lost today, should be alarming to the Bears brass. But we did win. So that means Bears brass isn't going to do anything. So, whatever. So Bears are 2-2. Let's go. 2-2. I'm 4-0 on my preseason predictions. I had us losing to the Lions, losing to the Vikings, and I had us beating the Cowboys, and I had us beating the Raiders. 2-2 into the bye. Let's go. I don't remember what my prediction was for next game, though. So I guess we'll find out, won't we? So, yeah, wild game. Just stupid. Like, the Bears, this game reminded me a lot up until the ending of the Colts game from last year. I don't know if you guys remember that one. That was very early in the season. It was kind of similar. Our offense was doing nothing. Our defense was committing a lot of dumb penalties. Offense was just had a lot of like really weird fluky mistakes, even though our defense was getting turnovers in that game. Like Anthony Richardson had a terrible day in that game. And we still ended up losing because, we kind of went down early. Colts just kept a sizable lead, and we just couldn't end up pulling out the win. And we lost to a team that I thought we were a lot better than. And it was certainly looking that way today. Like, I was feeling exactly the same. I felt the parallels. I felt everything. I was like, this is not good. Yeah, it was just a sloppy game all around on offense. Defense, at least, our defense is very injured. Like, our D-line is sorry, and I'll get to them in a second. But our secondary is so beat up that it's the only group that I'm like, what can I expect? Jalen Johnson is hurt. Kyler Gordon is hurt. Stevenson got hurt during this game. Terrell Smith is hurt. Deshaun Wright is hurt. McLeod got shaken up during this game. Like, that's everybody, T.J. Edwards is hurt. But, the D-line, we were missing Grady Jarrett. But my God, can they not stop the run? Ashton Genty had a breakout game. And I say breakout in quotes because the Bears D-line has been doing this to running backs all season. They've been just letting them just run all over them and have career days. And that happened to Genty. Genty had 3 touchdowns today. That's pathetic. What do you like? We are paying these guys so much money. Montez Sweat is getting paid like a top 15 edge rusher in the NFL. He is not. Dayo Odeyingbo is getting paid like a top 25 edge rusher in the NFL. He is not. Jerron Dexter, drafted in the 2nd round. Not really living up to that yet. We're like still kind of waiting to, like I was predicting a big breakout from him. Hasn't really done too much. Andrew Billings. Good. And then now we had Grady Jarrett out, who we are paying a decent chunk of change to, and he's hurt. And replacing him is Zach Pickens, somebody who we picked in the first pick of the 3rd round and has done, when I say he's done nothing, I mean he has done nothing. What's your favorite Zach Pickens play? This is 3rd season. What's your favorite Zach Pickens play? What's your favorite Zach Pickens moment? That one time that he's saying, "Don't be chasing waterfalls" during that preseason game when he was mic'd up. That's literally the only thing I can think of. I can't think of a sack. I can't think of a TFL, a cool tackle, literally anything he's ever done. First pick of the third round. Like, at this point, I'd really like to be seeing some dividends from these mid-round picks. But yeah, D-line got ran all over today. But I want to talk about the offense now. So the offense, I don't necessarily want to say they had a bad day. It's just they kept getting in their own way. Like I see the offense and everything's there. Like things are, it all works at separate times, but it never works at the same time, if that makes sense. And they just keep getting in their own way, man. And Max Crosby today had a day. Darnell Wright was out today with an injury, so we had Theo Benedette sliding in instead. And he got bullied, which, backup right tackle, against arguably the best edge rusher in the NFL. Arguably. I wouldn't agree with it, but you could argue it. And he got bullied. Max Crosby was all over the field today. TFLs, pass deflections. He had like 3 batted down. He had interception batted up into the air on Caleb in the red zone. That was just, my goodness, man. He was just a pest all day. And he kept the Raiders in that game. Like, Bears would get good drives going. They'd get down to the 30 or the 20, and then they would have something like that happen, or God forbid, a penalty. That is, if I'm Ben Johnson, I'm going to the bye week. I'm saying penalties are the number one thing we're trying to get figured out. I need you guys to, specifically false starts, because they just keep happening. I need you guys to go onto the field on Monday, and for the next 5 days, we are just going to run plays and get you guys in the same timing for the snap. Because how are they not, Like, I know Ben Johnson, it's a new offense and all that, but like, this is like, you don't know the snap count? Like, what, how is this keep happening? It's not only just false starts, it's like illegal shifts, holding, ineligible man downfield, which I think is the dumbest penalty in the NFL, like just dumb stuff like that. And it doesn't help that we have no run game to speak of whatsoever with DeAndre Swift. I've spoken my piece about him plenty of times, and it's really getting frustrating watching him still make the same mistakes running straight into contact. Cannot break a tackle. Very poor vision. These are the same issues that have been, and he's our number one running back. We didn't feel any need to replace him. Kyle Monangai, when he was in the game, he looked better. And honestly, Kyle Monangai doesn't even look all that great. But he looks a lot better than DeAndre Swift. The Bears, I got this stat from Bootleg Football. The Bears have the highest yards before contact for running backs any in the league. Think about that for a second. Yards before contact. For a running back, that's great. All that space, all that time, And we have no run game to speak of. That's just how bad DeAndre Swift is bad, And cool, yeah, once a game he'll bust out for like a 30-yard run. But the rest of the game, he's going down immediately from contact. He's running straight into defenders. He's getting tripped up. Like, it's really frustrating watching him take constant run directly into the line of scrimmage down. If we had a run game, this offense's potential would be so much greater, And I blame Ryan Poles for that. I don't blame DeAndre Swift for being DeAndre Swift, Like, it's not his fault, It's the same way I don't get mad at a bear for pooping in the woods, That's just how he is. I don't get mad at DeAndre Swift for taking TFLs. He's DeAndre Swift. I blame Ryan Poles for paying him $30 million and saying, go be our starting running back. Like, that's not good for me. Caleb Williams, he had an okay day. Nothing too spectacular, but it seems like the Raiders defense was playing decently well. I'd say they're probably the strength of the team. I did like the Bears' defensive performance, relatively speaking. I know I talked about, giving the secondary a pass and all that, but honestly, they had 3 picks today. Kevin Byard had 2 interceptions. I think, who was the other one? Tyreek Stevenson had the other one. Stevenson, he's getting better, man. I've said my piece about him. He's getting better. Not anything crazy yet, but I like that he's starting to actually find a rhythm in this defense. Geno Smith, horrible day from Geno. They wrote him off, and he wrote back, and he said, I agree. Gino, yeah, rough day for him. Yeah, he did not look good, but they were still leading the whole game. We were getting these turnovers, and we keep settling for field goals, and it was just very frustrating. So we were down the whole game. We end up taking the lead with I think it was DeAndre Swift touchdown. There's about a minute 30 to go, roughly, maybe a minute 40, and I was like, oh boy. That's a lot of time, That's a lot of time. I think Raiders still had 2 timeouts. I was like, with how their run game has been, this is not gonna be fun, especially with our defense. So yeah, we kick it off, and they return it, and they keep going, and they keep going. Oh, okay, all right. They got a 40-yard return. So they're 1st and 10 from like the 42-yard line or something like that. Okay, great, awesome. Immediately, like they're playing way off cover, so Bowers always open, out, first down. Like immediately they're in field goal range. They're still like, 40 seconds. And I thought about it, I was like, man, does Ben Johnson, I think we had 2 timeouts or 3 timeouts. I was like, do you think he calls timeout maybe? And I thought about it, and I was like, well, you don't want to give the Raiders more time, but like, you don't want to, I don't know. It was that dire of a situation. I was like, do you start planning for after the Raiders take the lead so that we could try to answer? So luckily our defense forces a 4th down. They're a couple yards inside Daniel Carson's field goal range, but when the Bears scored their touchdown to take the lead, they went for 2, and it was a very rough 2-point conversion attempt. Nobody was open. They showed the camera. I was like, wow, everybody was clamped. I'm like, for this receiving group to be that clamped, I'm like, yeah, okay. So something went wrong there. So that doesn't go well. And as soon as that happened, I was like, oh boy, I can kind of see where this is going now. And yeah, once they got in field goal range, I was like, here it comes, here it comes. I've seen 1,000 Bears games end just like this. Like, so many, and I don't like being that jaded, but that's just how it goes. Time after time. And so I'm watching, and we force a 4th down. They're kicking the field goal, and I'm just like, oh gosh, it's Daniel Carlson. He's a clutch, long-distance kicker. They're going to make the kick, and I was like, well, they still got 40 seconds left. They still got a couple timeouts. Maybe they can get something going, maybe get in Cairo's field goal range and hope to God he can make the kick. And they go to kick it, and I think it was Josh Blackwell gets a great jump off the line, outstretches, and blocks the kick and gives the Bears the win. Crazy. That does not happen to the Bears. I said it. That just does not happen. The Bears do not get these kinds of wins. Hardly ever. And I was hoping that when you get a more aggressive head coach like Ben Johnson is, that actually kind of knows what he's doing, you get wins like that. And here we go. I was hoping for it, and there's one, And you're kind of lucky that this ended the way that it did. I think we didn't necessarily deserve to win that game with the mistakes we were making, how we were playing, all that. If I'm Ben Johnson, like I said, I'm going to the bye week, and I'm saying, no, you guys, we're evaluating this as a loss. Like, come on, The point of the Raiders was like they were a blank slate, ready to rebuild. Meanwhile, we're in year 4. The whole appeal of the Bears for these head coaching candidates was that we're ready to compete. And here we are playing on the same level, arguably a little bit worse than the Raiders are. So that's not okay to me. Normally, I'm pretty upset to have a bye this early in the season, but I'm actually kind of relieved. They have some issues to work out, definitely. I see some potential in this team now. It's kind of forming. But we just gotta, and we're lucky our schedule is kind of, we face Washington after we come back. I don't know if they'll Jaden Daniels or not, but either way, Washington's not been very good. If we have any hope of competing, we should win that game. Not should win as in like, I expect us to win, but if for what the Bears are trying to be, in theory, they should win that then. If that's what you want to be, you win this game. Then I think we face the Saints. We have some pretty easy games coming up. Bengals as well without Joe Burrow. That's a much more manageable team. But then after that, we start getting into the nitty gritty. Packers, Baltimore, Philadelphia, the Lions again. Like, we only have a few more weeks of games that we can pull off wins like this before we actually have to lock in if we want to do something here. Otherwise, we're heading right for 6 wins again, you know? Like, I'm glad you won, but you can't game plan off that, you know? And I'm impressed with the special teams. I am impressed with the special teams for what they did today. It wasn't just the block kick. It was also Torrey Taylor had an amazing punt. We had good punt returns. Cairo Santos nailed all of his field goals, including a couple of long ones. I'm very impressed with Richard Hightower and their squad. So, but, you know, if I'm Ben Johnson, I'm going, we can't rely on that. We cannot rely on getting a blocked kick to win every game. I'm glad it happened this time, but also this is the Raiders you're using that against. You know, if this was a blocked kick to beat, like, I don't know, like Detroit or something, I'd be like, wow. You know, I'd probably be a lot more excited, but you needed basically a miracle once in a million play to beat a team that's probably not even going to win 7 games this year. You know, like I don't want to be pessimistic. I'm glad we won. We're 2-2 going into the bye. Can't ask for much better than that. Looking at our schedule to start the year, this is a good spot to be in. But, you know, this team's got problems, man. They've got some problems. Notably, like, personnel usage. Still kind of tripping me up a bit. So, my big complaint to start the year was, okay, we used a top 10 pick on Colston Loveland, and we're paying Cole Kmet like he's a top 10 tight end in the NFL. And we hardly use either of them. Colston Loveland was out today with a hip injury. So I'm like, okay, in theory, the tight end should take a step back. The tight ends were more used than anybody else today. Cole Kmet kept getting looks, and he kept dropping them. Oh, my goodness. Cole Kmet looked like a rookie again. It was not good. Cole Kmet, and he committed several false start penalties. Just a bad day for him, man. But why, if we just have Cole Kmet, why are we utilizing him as a receiver when Colston Loveland is out more than we've used tight ends the whole year? This should be the week that we do ease up on them. I don't get it. I really don't understand it. Roma Dunze continues to be our best receiver. Very impressed with his development this year. DJ's been pretty quiet, you know, pretty quiet. I wouldn't be shocked with the amount of money we're paying him if maybe we look to move on after next year, maybe after this year or next year, you know. We're going to be up against it with the cap, but, you know, I hate to say it because I love DJ, but, like, I mean, you know, we're paying him a lot of money to be, he's wide receiver 2 at this point, and we got Luther Burden waiting in the wings. He should have, in theory, become wide receiver 2 someday. You know, he's a pretty similar build, I think, to DJ. Not saying to do that this year, but, you know, if you're looking at next year and like, okay, you know, we need more picks or we're in a rough cap situation, could potentially look to move him maybe. Not saying I want to, but that's an option. But yeah, that's interesting game. Interesting game. Blocked kick. Oh, that was nice. That was very fun. I was very happy about that. Like I said, man, you know, Bears don't usually get wins like this. They really don't, you know. It's just, you don't get that kind of fun, like, magic, you know. That's why I didn't like watching football for the longest time, because this Bears team was so miserable. So I'm glad that at least happened. You know, that's something cool. But yeah, we still got problems. Still got problems to work out. So, you know, get in the lab, figure those out. We got Washington next. Just keep working, you know. And maybe this Raiders team is better than I'm letting on, but, like, we should be better. Like I said, like, this is at this point, year 4 of the rebuild, you should be beating teams like this, and it should be in much more convincing fashion. We did get unlucky at certain points. We are injured, all that, but, you know, there's still work to do here, you know. I kind of seeing something forming here, but it's going to take a while to get there. So, yeah, cool. Bears win. Happy. You know, can't complain about that, but keep working.